Welcome back. Okay, the point of this video series is to help you improve your life in a number of areas, whether it's career, relationship, or even parenting. And as we just discussed in the first lesson, mindset is a critical component to creating the life you want. Now, this lesson is going to speak about another critical component, and yet in my experience working with people who are dealing with changes and challenges, this is often the most overlooked step. Now, once you know that you have to keep a healthy mindset, the next step is to do a reality check. Now, a quick bit of caution tape here. Without a solid mindset, many people enter into this section already beat down or in a suffering state, and this taints their reality check. So what I'm going to share with you now is some of the key components of why it's important and how to make sure your reality check is grounded in your real reality. Let me start by telling you a little story. Now, this is a picture of my license plate. Aside from it being a nice attention getter and a conversation starter, it is my daily reminder because of what it stands for, which is a Buddhist concept called suchness, or it is what it is. It comes from a story I heard of a mother who unfortunately lost her young child. Now, she took the body of her child to the Buddha and asked him for his help and to bring the child back. Instead of telling her that this was above his pay grade, he said, okay, he can do that, but she must first complete a task for him. Of course, she agreed. She was willing to do whatever was asked of her. And the Buddha simply said, all you need to do is bring me a few mustard seeds from a family in the village who has not been affected by death. Okay, no problem. So off the mother went door to door for hours and hours, begging everybody she could find and talk to, just to find somebody who had not had the same experience of loss. And of course, she could not. And upon returning to the Buddha, she expressed her failure, to which the response was, Tathata, it is what it is. She, like all of us, had to accept the reality as it really is. Her path was not to bring her child back, but to learn to accept that death is part of life. She was trying to pull something out of the situation that was not based in reality, and as she recognized this, it has been told that she thanked the Buddha and returned home having learned this harsh but vital lesson. The point is that as you navigate life and encounter challenges to be dealt with, or if you are on a mission to create positive changes in your world, before you jump in, you have to do a reality check. Knowing where you are, what the facts of the situation are, what the agreed upon version of the truth is if you're working with others, you have to know what is. Because if you don't know the base or the starting point, then any work you do on top of this is going to be destined to fall apart, or at a minimum lead you astray, wasting time and energy. This is the main missing element from most people's understanding of manifesting. You've heard of The Secret, right? Like just think as big as you can and things will come to you. Now you can think as big and imagine grand visions and create worlds unknown. Yes, this is absolutely possible, as long as you understand the fundamentals of how to do these things. And when you do know your base, your starting point, then you can build on it in a secure, stable fashion. Now, yes, there are definitely some people who get lucky. There's these flash-in-the-pan successes. But what I'm talking about is stable success, long-term changes for the better that are changes built to last. A more realistic example of using this principle would be somebody who is involved in a child custody case, such as maybe a parent who wants more custody time with their kids. If this person has a stable job, a stable home, and a reasonable reason for asking for more parenting time from the court, well, then they are much more likely to win at least some headway, rather than, say, a parent who is unemployed, living on a friend's couch, and thinks that they can get an adjustment to their child support obligation if they spend a couple more days with their kids. Now, that's just wishful thinking and a feeble attempt to gain, which is built on a faulty foundation. Now I want to talk to you about experience versus story. I'm only going to touch on this briefly, but I feel it's important to share with you that, at least at a high level, what this is about. So there's a huge difference between what happens to you and your experience of it and the story you tell yourself, right? So this is the difference between experience and story. What happens is the experience, but what you tell yourself about the situation, that's the story. This is one of those ideas I spend a lot of time on with my clients because more often than not, people just don't even have a concept of the difference and the distinctions that are really critical here. And that really is the core component of making effective changes. Now, one way to think about this is to acknowledge that you have past or current dramas that you have experienced that are coloring or tainting your worldview. Often, these dramas are being lived or relived over and over, often imposing old hurts on top of new experiences, and that just doesn't match up. I'm going to give you a quick example. I have one client that was going through a divorce, and he kept telling me how his wife was hitting him with this request and hitting him with this information, etc. His experience was that every interaction was a beating. So I dug into some of the communication and exchanges between the two of them, and it turned out that this was like 98% story and very little experience. The divorce was a surprise to him when it came up, and of course this was painful for his self-esteem, and his story was that he was being beaten. Now, once we uncovered and dealt with this, his experience and story both shifted, and we were able to make some pretty large strides in how he now deals with communication. Not just with her, but with everyone. And he actually carried this over into his business, and he started to experience some success come to him more easily than he had before. It was like a light bulb had turned on when he stopped telling crap stories in his head, which were hurting him, and he stopped having crap experiences because of it. He has now shifted careers and is loving the idea of being challenged, especially when it comes to communicating with people and moving towards that goal. So what I did is I showed him how to remove the drama, which changed the story, which then in turn turned it into an experience, which was drama-free. And when you can do that, you can reframe just about any experience to your benefit, as opposed to being held mentally captive by events for years or even lifetimes. The foundation of your belief in yourself is at the essence of this principle. For if you are not grounded in reality, you will only contribute to the false and unstable foundation you currently have. Whereas if you accept where you are, what you have to offer, and are willing to put in the effort because you believe in yourself as a fundamental driving force of your own life, well, then you can use this to your advantage in every aspect of life. Let me ask you, have you ever known someone that always complains that nothing ever goes their way, like the negative Nancys? I apologize to all the Nancys out there. As likewise, how many people can you think of that always seem to take leaps and bounds of success? Whatever they touch turns to gold. Henry Ford said it right when he said, whether you believe you can do a thing or not, you are right. One of the biggest lessons I have to give most of my clients is, and I want you guys to write this down, when you want to make a change, the first step is not to set a goal or focus on what you want. In almost every program I have taken, every pro I have listened to, expert I've paid for, and lesson I've learned, this step is essentially out of order. They tell you to have goals, like write it on your mirror, post it where you see it daily. But the truth is, before you focus on what you want, you have to put your finger on where you are. And when you have figured out your reality, or at least accepted that you can start to dig into it, then and only then can you choose your desired outcome. Now, this can be just as big a challenge for many, but we'll get into that in the next lesson. For now, recognize that yes, you do need to have goals, but you have to know where you are first. See, as an example, we all have world maps in our pocket. You can search for any location on your phone, anywhere on the globe, and it will literally tell you how to get to any place you choose. But it needs to know where you are first. I hope you see the power in this concept. It has saved more time and energy than I can count in my own life and my clients. And once you know where you are, then that's when you should focus on where you want to go and what you want to accomplish, which is exactly what the next lesson is about. We'll see you in there. As always, I love your feedback and your questions. Talk soon.